Okay, the next question is from Michelle, and he says, government spending has ballooned over the last decade with very little to show for it. That's clear. Interest costs on debt are now over 1 billion rand a day. It's just a staggering number. In fact, interest is a bigger expense than every single category besides education. Where are the spending cuts? And most importantly, can we really afford this budget?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because the previous budget we had, so the first with Minister Gondongwane, was a budget that was heavily focused on undoing the reckless spending under state capture. And in essence, for me, the canonical graph, if you can imagine it visually, is the parabola of debt to GDP. So debt to GDP in the Zuma years increased dramatically from about 50% to GDP to over 70%. And what the new National Treasury team promised is a decline, right, over time. So you see in the budget last year, the steady decline of the debt to GDP ratio from about 71% to 67% over the MTF period and beyond to 2030. Which is the best they could do under the growth assumptions they had. Now what we have is an upward shift in every single fiscal year of that debt to GDP ratio. It's not significantly large, but it is large enough. So 1 percentage points each year, more or less over the MTF period and beyond. It's large enough to make it clear, as Michelle has said, that this hasn't been a spending cut budget. This has been an increase in spending budget, right? This has been an expansionary fiscal policy budget, but on the back of revenues that are stagnant, right? And growth that is stagnant. And then the only way you can finance that increased spending is through higher debt levels. Just one data point, Kyle, is that, and we've missed this in our focus on the VAT, I think, is look at the deficit to GDP ratio. So last year's budget promised a 4.5% debt to GDP ratio for 2024-2025. It's gone up to 5%. This year's projection, so 25-26, last year was 3.7% and now it's gone up to 4.6%. So again, even on the deficit to GDP ratio, which makes sense if you look at the debt profile, you see this upward clipping of our deficit and debt to GDP ratios, which for me is particularly worrying.